Hi, everybody. This is Paul Bryan of UX Strat. Today I'm talking with Christopher Lafayette, who is an emergent technologist. Hi, Christopher. Welcome to the Stratosphere.
Hi, Paul. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So our topic today is designing the end of racism. But before we get into that, can you tell me a little bit about your current work and some of the steps that led up to it?
Sure. Although I can go, way back, I'll just kind of go recent. Just an emerging technologist and international and national speaker on different subjects of immersive technology and eco-culture and ecobiotic diversity and things of that nature.
Okay.
Just recently here, we just launched a new initiative that we'll share a little bit more called the Black Technology Mentorship Program. It's a powerful initiative, and it's really being well embraced by many members of various technology communities, and some that aren't even in the technology community. We've had a really good turnout so far, and community reaction, and I'll be happy to share more of that with you.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to hear about it. So what are some of the early steps of the program?
Sure. So our focus right now is, and the idea with the platform is it's a mentor-mentee platform first. Then second comes education. And then the third is what we call the last mile. Because we want these programs that we find our student mentees in, we want them to matter and mean something. Because it has no benefit of getting any type of certification or type of graduation if you can't land a career. There makes no sense in building and developing out some type of prototype if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, if you're unable to go the distance from really lab to funding and lab to market.
Okay.
But it first starts off as a mentorship program. And the mentorship program is taking these geniuses and these technologists that are out here that have had such an opportunity to find themselves in as far as what they've come to know and understand, and to pair that with those who haven't had much of any opportunities at all when it comes to the career path and entrepreneurship path. And so I've had the pleasure of meeting and knowing so many different people in technology and in tech and here in Silicon Valley and domestically and internationally, and those that I don't know. There's more people that I don't know than the ones that I do, but they've answered a call as well. And so pairing them and giving them an opportunity to speak, giving them an opportunity to teach and educate and to advise. Those are some of the paths that we're looking forward to. And we actually have our first session, mentor session, next week on July 8th, and I'm really excited about that.
Cool. And if you could describe your perfect incoming candidate as a mentee, who would that mentee type be?
So it's kind of a STEM from the start approach, beginning of life, beginning to career. So we'll take those that are children, teens, young adults, and adults.
Okay.
Everybody has a different place to start in their pursuit and track of the journey when it comes to the pursuits of business. And so what we did not want to do is discriminate by age, and we wanted to allow all those that have a willingness and a desire to even know more, even on a seemingly modicum level, or to know more on top of what they know as experts, or to help them finish and close the gap, which we call the last mile, to actually help a lot of people that have this skill set already to get a job, and to create this type of pipeline to be able to contribute. And we don't want technology platforms to work with us as a feel-good initiative per se. Yes, that matters, but we also have to start looking at diversification and the inclusion of culture as a revenue driver and as a contributor to the development of tech. So as far as we've come along when it comes to technology, and now on the dawn horizon of emergent technologies, as far as we've come, Paul, we will never be as great as we can be in our constructs and our development if we do not have all able people to come and build this technology. If we're going to extend reality, then we must bring reality with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people look at kind of AI and extended reality and things like that as though they're sort of robots or machines, and there's nothing human about it, but actually the opposite is true. We're hard coding lots of preconceived notions into all that technology.
Sure, of course. I think to your point, one of the things that we have to be mindful of, because I hear it all the time and been hearing it for years, as I'm sure you have as well, is that when we talk about the ecosystem, our minds tend to think about an ecosystem being a collection of hardware and software and circuit boards and Raspberry Pis. And that's just not the case. The ecosystem natively are people. And the ecosystem is comprised of such a gathering and a group of people. And the more culture that you have, because a lot of people think that there's a difference between culture and technology, but culture is technology on a very rudimentary level. So the more culture that you introduce to an ecosystem, the more stronger that ecosystem becomes. And so when we build in any type of homogeneous setting and environments in only one-way narrative directions, there's only so much that ecosystem will be able to produce and give, especially when it comes to consumption for identifiability of audiences, for different channels that you're selling and marketing to, and for usability. When we talk about AI, how many times have we heard about the discrimination natively from the data sets that are coming from those that may have some implicit or explicit bias, or they built for people that look like them and don't look like others. So when I stick my hand under a water fountain that's machine learned and it doesn't work for me, well, then I knew what happened at inception.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so if I take a step back from that, it sounds like the disease part of this is the lack of representation, and the cure is education at an early age so that there's representation further down the line as the technologies are designed and implemented. Is that a fair way to say it?
Well, that's part of it. Education is key as well, but on the other side of things, there has to be awareness, acknowledging, to understand that a lot of people that are in positions of power, that are in positions of fortunate positions, that have benefited from not necessarily being subjected to implicit and explicit bias. There needs to be a rethinking of the thought process and the looking of that. And at the same time, even all the way from our executive levels on down in the career space, we have to look at the idea of having more of a position or a disposition of vulnerability, and to know that your way that you've been trained and governed, even if it's fiduciary responsibility, there are better ways to be able to look at how we look at inclusive narratives when it comes to inclusion and belonging and equity in particular. And so there needs to be more dialogue and a conversation from having vulnerability of those that are privileged, and starting as young as we can, but we'll look at the adult level because hearts and minds can change on our perspective of the way we look at business. But education is absolutely key. But you can educate someone, but we still need to guide them with the education that they have. See, I see a lot of programs. There's a lot of programs as the day is long that extend themselves and lend themselves to all different types of culture, communities of color, and gender. But if I give you all the education you have and still can't point you in the right, and still you don't know what to do with that education, and having not been pointed in the right direction. See, I came to Silicon Valley and I knew a lot about technology, but I found myself in a position of knowing how much I did not know when I came to the Valley with black-colored skin. And then I was taught by people that didn't look like me for the most part on updating my understanding when it comes to technology through mentorship, if you will. But rudimentary, or natively speaking, I had someone that was in the home front that I would come to every night, and he would be sitting at his desk with his little lamp on, building and taking down computer parts. This man that was there. And I would go from time to time and ask this man, I say, Dad, what's the internet? And he'd tell me. And I say, Dad, what's a website? And he'd tell me. But it wasn't till years later, Paul, that I began to realize and understand that a lot of people where I come from, Oakland, California, where I was primarily raised, they didn't have that when they came home.
Right.
So that type of instillment of confidence, knowing that I saw somebody that looked like me could do that. And then how I've been raised spiritually, you know, that's played the biggest role of it for me. And so significant. So knowing that I can do these things first was the thing that really let me know, or gave me a part of the courage to ingress into Silicon Valley and to know that I could contribute a verse.
Sure. Well, you and I came in contact in LinkedIn, and you're in Silicon Valley. So imagining that a LinkedIn or an Apple, or a Google or Facebook came to you and said, you know what, we feel like some change is needed here in this corporate environment. Given this initiative that you started, what would you say to them? What would you say some of the first steps are, a way that they could engage with your organization in this program?
To be candid, fund it and live it.
All right.
To be candid, fund it and live it. We can't, I think there's a benefit, obviously, from social posting awareness. It certainly has its place, and putting you stand for equality and civil liberties and things of that nature. But without the action of what you say that you believe, how will I know that you truly believe that? How will you your own self know that you truly believe that? And so the first part is fund it and live it. That's number one. Number two is by showing yourself as a credible member that has a desire to be identifiable to Black communities in particular, you need to show it, to be available, to become a hub of resource of information, and to be reliable, and to commit to go the distance for the foreseeable future, or really from the tenure in the lifetime of your platform, to commit yourself to underrepresented people catching up to where others are already at, and then with what I call building together. And so that's the first part. Now, there's so much more that could be said, Paul, but relationships are some of the very best relationships develop organically. And so we don't want to put too much on the front end of what we want that relationship to be down the road. Morphologically speaking, it will craft itself to be what it could be and the best of it. But to know that you have that commitment up front financially, and to know that you have that commitment up front intentionally, and you do something about it when manifested result of action, I'm all for that.
Okay. Well, one of the methodologies in user experience strategy, which is what UX Strat majors in, is future casting. So if I were to do a little bit of future casting now, and I said, Christopher, imagine a couple of years from now, the best possible scenario you could mention with respect to this program, what would that scenario look like? We are doing X, we are accomplishing Y, we are, et cetera, we're working with this and with that. How would you present that picture a couple of years in the future if everything works according to plan?
Well, the best scenario is that the program doesn't need to exist in the first place.
Yeah.
And think about that.
No, I get it.
Paul, why are we having these programs in the first place?
Right.
Why do we have diversity and inclusion management in companies in the first place? You know the job is done, and you know when the mission is accomplished when they can all let go of their jobs.
Yeah.
You know the job is done, the mission is accomplished when we don't have to have these programs. That's what the pinnacle of success looks like for this. And that we've opened up the diaspora, we've had people ingress, and we're not dealing with such a gated environment for opportunity. And we're able to take our hidden geniuses and our hidden heroes that have helped them along the way, we naturalize the situation and say, okay, this is actually how it happens. And it's free and agnostic. It's free from having any type of program hinge to it. Now, to tone it down some, I think some of the key performance indicators that we look at and what we'd like for this program to look like is a program that's really focused on the career track and that's focused on the entrepreneur track, where we're holding classes and trainings, hackathons, and then platform development initiatives post-hackathon, and getting people on the entrepreneur track in particular and putting them through pre-filter incubator systems and then incubation and then on their way to acceleration and then going into the market with their product that they've developed. On the career path is getting them the right necessary and the right type of certifications, helping our talent to be able to conquer the interview process and to champion that, even if they find themselves in the face of bias, that they're able to mitigate that and identify what that actually looks like, to make sure that our career path people are sufficiently imbued, not only with hard skill development, but soft skill development so that they can work in team environments as opposed to being siloed and alone and going in there with all hard skills, but they don't know how to communicate properly. And that's a Silicon Valley problem thing, whether you're Black, white, or Latinx or Asian. And that's a big problem in the Valley that we see in technology, that we have such siloed communication from those that have learned, really powerful development skills, and they find themselves in areas and situations where they have to be in community environments where they don't thrive. They thrive better alone, but we are in such a development build where we do at times, and some requirements do challenge the need to break away from your individual so-called autonomy and to put yourself in a group think, whether it's for ideate or to build itself. So the well-run engine right now, we have our access pool of our mentees, which goes into the thousands now. We haven't gone public with that, but now it goes into the thousands, and we just hit over 100 mentors that we have. And I'm very excited that we have that type of commitment from the community. And so the idea is that for us to have a relationship with corporations, to have a relationship with ventures and VCs, angel investors, for pitching awareness or pitching allowance, and then have a relationship with companies, not to give our talent a handout and then walk in freely and just get a job, but to acknowledge that we have people that look like me, that are professionals already, that exist, and they would simply like to even get an interview, because that's a problem right now as well. So it's having a free-flowing environment of education, go-to available mentorship, short-term small batch sessions that we do, introductory courses or sessions via virtual or Zoom, if you will. But we do these sessions to let people know what this technology is already. When we say UI, UX, I can say that to 2,000 people at a Zoom conference, and they have absolutely no idea what it is. But little do they know that they're interacting with it right there in that moment, and that they've been interacting for some of our young people their whole entire lives, but they don't know what to call it. Virtual and augmented and mixed reality, artificial intelligence and machine learning, deep learning, IoT and wearables, so forth and so on. They don't know what that is. So small batch introductory sessions to let them know what this technology is. And then more importantly, with some of our mentor commitments, I may only ask one of our mentors, a lot of them, to do 1 hour for the whole year. And all I want them to do, and all we're asking them to do, is to sit on a Zoom conference, as you and I yet said, and tell people simply what you do for a living. For them to hear that and to know that there's that actually exists, with the idea of presenting options for them to be able to pursue such talents, is a game change. So the first prioritization is establishing communication with our mentor mentees. The second one is to be able to enhance our development systems and educational offerings and advisory for those that are on the entrepreneur track. And then the third is to make sure that all of that is cohesive and that is growing responsibly.
Cool. Well described. How would someone who wants to participate either as a mentor, a mentee, or an investor, how would they get in touch with you, or how would they get involved?
Yeah. So they would go to ChristopherLafayette.com, and when they go to ChristopherLafayette.com, they'll be able to identify and see the program that's on there. And then based on the wording and the narrative descriptions, they'll be able to quickly determine whether they fit better to be a mentor, a mentee, or even an ally, or perhaps even a volunteer. And some of our companies that we already have, and we're getting commitments, which is fantastic, to have them come on as sponsors and to be part of our community members as well, which our community partnerships and our sponsors matter so much to us because they're helping fund these initiatives through their partnerships. And at the same time, they're willing to have a disposition of vulnerability as these hubs that we talk about of resourceful information that our mentees will need to be able to find, and our mentors will need to be able to find. I mean, isn't it awesome just to think about you being a mentor and you can have mentees actually help you with perhaps some of the initiatives that you're working on because they really love the idea of what you're working on and what you're building, and they're so enthusiastic. They can come on and help you to build what you're building, even if just to sit there and look over your shoulder while you do it virtually. That's a lot for a lot of our mentors and our mentees and our students. And so I think our mentors are going to be able to benefit from that relationship that they're going to have with the mentees that they find themselves in contact with.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I appreciate it. Any closing words before we sign off?
Yeah, Paul, I really appreciate your courage in having this discussion and this candid discussion about what's happening when it comes to the discussion of anti-racism in this country. We have two pandemics that are happening right now. This is the COVID-19, and then we have this anti-racism narrative that we've also found ourselves in. And so everyone has a role to play when it comes to how this is and what their contribution to the discussion is. And so I feel really good about being able to present this, present this program and having the community embrace it thus far. And so thank you for platforms such as yourself. It matters, and I think it goes a long way.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul.